Narcissists often project an image of self-confidence, superiority, and invulnerability. However, beneath this facade lies a fragile sense of self-esteem that can be easily shattered by the slightest hint of rejection. They build their self-worth on the approval, admiration, and validation of others. While they may appear overly confident, their self-esteem is externally dependent, making them highly sensitive to criticism or rejection. This fragility comes from having a weak and unstable sense of self that is both overly confident and easily hurt. Clinical psychologist and psychoanalyst Heinz Kohut, a pioneer in the study of narcissism, argued that narcissistic individuals develop a false self, an exaggerated version of who they want to be rather than who they genuinely are. This false self is a defense mechanism designed to protect their true, insecure self from feelings of inadequacy and unworthiness. Because of this fragile ego, narcissists are more prone to interpreting rejection not as a simple disagreement or a sign of incompatibility, but as a direct attack on their self-worth. Even small criticisms feel like big threats to narcissists. Rejection makes them doubt their inflated self-image and question their superiority. To them, rejection isn't just a simple no. It shakes their whole sense of who they are. One of the core elements to their personality is the constant need for external validation. Narcissists thrive on admiration and attention, using these as sources of fuel to maintain their inflated self-image. This is often referred to as narcissistic supply. Whether through praise, compliments, or admiration, they seek out relationships and interactions that affirm their sense of superiority. Rejection represents the opposite of this validation. It is an experience that denies them of the admiration they crave, leaving them feeling starved of their much-needed supply. When the narcissist is rejected, they lose an important source of feeling good about themselves. They often experience this as an intense emotional injury known as a narcissistic injury. This concept, first suggested by Sigmund Freud, refers to the emotional damage that occurs when a narcissist's ego is wounded by criticism or rejection. Since narcissists rely so much on others for validation, they struggle to handle feelings of failure or not being good enough when they're rejected. They often struggle with emotional regulation, which is their ability to manage, control, and respond to emotional experiences in a healthy way. Their lack of emotional resilience means that when they encounter rejection, they often respond with intense feelings of rage, shame, or humiliation. This is called narcissistic rage, where the narcissist reacts with extreme anger to rejection or criticism, even when the situation doesn't seem like a big deal. Their inability to process rejection healthily stems from their impaired emotional regulation and their tendency to interpret rejection as a direct assault on their identity. Narcissists struggle to empathize, meaning they can't easily understand how others feel. This makes it hard for them to view rejection in any way other than their own. They often don't realize that rejection can happen for reasons unrelated to their worth, like not being compatible or having different needs. Instead, they see rejection as proof that something is wrong with them, which leads to strong emotional reactions. Narcissists often focus on control and power in their relationships. They look for connections not for love, but to dominate others. They want to be in charge, deciding how things go and how others behave. When someone rejects them, they lose that control. Rejection shows they can't manipulate or influence that person anymore, which can be very upsetting for them because it challenges their sense of power. In response to rejection, the narcissist may resort to various tactics to regain control. This can include manipulation, guilt-tripping, or even revenge. For example, they may engage in hoovering, a behavior where they attempt to pull the victim back into their sphere of influence through false apologies, love bombing, or promises of change. These tactics show how desperate a narcissist is to regain the power they feel they lost after being rejected. Narcissists often harbor a deep-seated fear of abandonment, which can be traced back to their early developmental experiences. Many psychologists believe that narcissism develops as a defense mechanism to cope with early feelings of neglect or inadequacy. In childhood, these individuals may have experienced inconsistent or conditional love, leading them to develop a false self that seeks approval to avoid feelings of abandonment. Rejection triggers this fear of abandonment, reminding the narcissist of their unresolved childhood wounds. When rejected, they may experience overwhelming feelings of inadequacy, believing they are unworthy of love or connection. This can lead to intense emotional reactions, as the rejection reactivates these deep fears. Consequently, they often react by either lashing out in anger or withdrawing into a state of self-pity and victimization, unable to process the rejection in a healthy or constructive way. When confronted with rejection, the narcissist may employ several dysfunctional coping mechanisms to protect their fragile egos. One common reaction is narcissistic rage, an intense emotional outburst that can range from verbal aggression to passive-aggressive behavior, or sometimes even physical aggression. This rage serves as a defense mechanism to avoid confronting their own feelings of inadequacy and vulnerability. Another coping mechanism they often use is blame shifting. Instead of acknowledging their own role in the rejection, they may place the blame on the other person, accusing them of being ungrateful, unworthy, or malicious. This allows the narcissist to preserve their sense of superiority while deflecting responsibility for the failure or misunderstanding of the relationship. Lastly, another defense mechanism used by the narcissist is denial. Denial can allow them to avoid accepting the reality of rejection. Rather than facing the painful truth, they may convince themselves that the rejection did not occur or that the person who rejected them will eventually come back to them. This can permit them to maintain their delusions of grandeur and avoid the emotional pain associated with rejection. Rejection threatens the narcissist's carefully constructed sense of control, power, and superiority, making it one of the most psychologically damaging experiences they can face. Understanding these underlying dynamics is important in seeing why narcissists react so disproportionately to rejection and how it affects their relationships with others. If you enjoyed this video and it was helpful to you in any way, please support us by liking this video, commenting, and subscribing to the channel. Thank you.